Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, the 1st of November. I'm Laura Cornfield, and this is IBA News broadcasting live from Jerusalem. At the entrance to the Cave of the Patriarchs in Hebron today, security forces arrested a young Palestinian woman after she was found carrying 2 knives. She was handed over to security officials for questioning. In the West Bank overnight, security forces raided the Kabatya home of Palestinian policeman Mohammed Turkeman, who shot at soldiers deployed at a checkpoint near Beit El on Monday night. 3 soldiers were injured, 1 moderately, in the attack. 25-year-old Turkeman was shot dead as he attempted to flee the scene. Security forces also revoked permits held by the Turkeman's family members that allowed them to work inside Israel and detained his brother for questioning. Turkeman's father told Palestinian news outlets he was proud of his son's actions. He noted that hours prior to the attack, Palestinian security officials raided the family's home and confiscated a weapon. In other security operations, 10 Palestinian fugitives involved in terrorist activities were arrested in raids in Judea and Samaria and the Jordan Valley. The state is asking the High Court of Justice to delay by 7 months the implementation of its ruling calling for the evacuation of the Amona settlement. The state claims that the extension is necessary in order to allow it to complete the necessary process of transferring the existing settlement to one of 2 alternative sites which are under construction. The evacuation has been ordered by the court several times in the past after it ruled the outpost was built on private Palestinian land, but the state has repeatedly delayed the demolition. Yesterday, the cabinet delayed a highly controversial proposal submitted by the Jewish Home Party's Shuli Mualim, which calls for legalizing the status of Amona and other illegally built Israeli homes in the West Bank. Debate on the matter was postponed to next week. The proposed bill, which aims to cancel the Supreme Court's order and allow the settlers to remain in Amona, has been ruled unconstitutional by Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit. Another proposed bill by the Jewish Home is causing much controversy. Justice Minister Ayelet Shaked is seeking to reshape the makeup of Israel's Supreme Court. Shaked today submitted a new law proposal that would change the way Supreme Court judges are selected. The bill abolishes the need to obtain the consent of serving Supreme Court justices in order to approve new appointments. Currently, such appointments require a majority of 7 out of 9 members of the Judicial Selection Committee, which is made up of 3 Supreme Court justices, including the court's president, Miriam Naor, 2 cabinet ministers, 2 MKs, and 2 members of the Israel Bar Association, basically giving the Supreme Court judges veto power on any appointment. Under Shaked's proposal, an ordinary majority will suffice so that Naor's support will not be mandatory in order to approve a new appointment. 4 judges are slated to be appointed in the coming weeks, and the Justice Minister is seeking to pass the bill before that. So far, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has not expressed any objection. Amid ongoing political wrangling, the fate of Israel's public broadcast remains unclear. A short time ago, IBA's Eilon Aslan-Levy met with Yochanan Plessner, head of the Israel Democracy Institute, and asked him whether the argument that the proposed broadcasting corporation should be shut down because it has been taken over by anti-government leftists is reasonable.
The key issue that needed to be addressed with respect to the public broadcasting in Israel and the Public Broadcasting Authority is the link to the political level. This is really what created the biggest, the largest, the most prominent damage. And in the creation of the new corporation, there was a mechanism created that created this distinction, this separation between the political level and the professional journalism. There's no option of creating that layer of separation within the existing public broadcasting service.
We have a situation today where the Prime Minister also holds the communications portfolio. Is that a healthy way for our democracy to function?
Well, it's unhealthy that the Prime Minister and the Communication Minister are actually the same person. And I think it's even less healthy that the Prime Minister's main agenda, it seems, is to try and re-engineer and change the entire journalistic and communication landscape in a way that will subjugate it to the whims of politicians. We need free media that investigates, that exposes, that gives expression to a variety of views, and we do not want to move in the direction of other countries that are moving in the direction of adversely affecting freedom of speech.
Many of the Prime Minister's critics say that he's trying to silence the free media, but he retorts that he's trying to liberalize the media market and make it easier for people to set up media outlets. What's the correct way to assess the Prime Minister's media policy?
This is not the issue at stake. The issue at stake now is taking an independent organization, or if we use the words of the chairman of the coalition, David Bitan, to free a press, and trying to subjugate it to the government, to the coalition, to turn it into a political voice. This is the intention. With respect to the commercial channels, we're seeing a different effort. I'm not sure that the word liberalization is the right word, because one has to understand that the journalistic product is a public good. It's a public good that, in order to be supplied with a proper quality, proper independence, it requires a certain regulatory environment. A regulatory environment whereby the Prime Minister intervenes and de facto breaks up the commercial channels is an environment whereby those channels will think 10 times about what they say about him or his government, because he affects their business interests.
There's a bigger picture here, which is that the Prime Minister is asking his coalition partners to agree to the reform because they agreed in the coalition agreement that he would have authority over communications issues. How healthy is it for our democracy that parties agree before they establish a government what they're going to do in advance, instead of approaching everything within the spirit of genuine democratic debate?
The legitimacy of the coalition agreement and the way it's phrased is questionable, because it wasn't agreement upon concrete specific steps. It was anything that I do in that area, you have to agree. Now, obviously, each minister has within his own domain has a level of autonomy, and there's an expectation that he or she will lead the government's activities in that area. But between that and a complete agreement up front for every move, it's a very problematic arrangement.
Turning to medical news, and there's a new drug that offers new hope to AIDS patients and HIV sufferers. The drug, called Gamora, was developed by the Hebrew University and is currently being tested at the Kaplan Medical Center in Rehovot. Developers of the medication, Professors Abraham Leuter and Asaf Friedler from the Department of Biological Chemistry at the Hebrew University, told reporters that during experiments, medication injected into test tubes carrying the blood of AIDS patients and HIV carriers showed the presence of the virus decreased up to 97% within an 8-day period. The drug eliminates the cells containing the virus, preventing it from reoccurring. The medication is being developed by the Israeli startup company Zion Pharmaceuticals. Winter hasn't even officially arrived, and already hospitals in Israel are experiencing severe overcrowding and extended waiting times in emergency rooms in various departments. Patients have reported waiting as long as 6 hours in some cases. A recent report by the Health Ministry showed that at the Rambam Medical Center in Haifa, the emergency room is at 170% capacity, and waiting times are significantly longer than usual. The same trend appears at other hospitals, such as the Bnei Zion Medical Center, also in Haifa, which is filled to more than double its capacity. The same goes for the Sheba Medical Center at Tel HaShomer, the Carmel Medical Center in the north, and Tel Aviv's Ichilov Hospital. Senior physicians at the medical centers are calling on people to exercise judgment and seek assistance from their healthcare providers before heading out to the hospital. School children of Ethiopian descent suffer more violence at the hands of their teachers than other school children. A report by the Walla News Agency said the Ministry of Education attempted to prevent the publication of a survey conducted by the National Authority for Measurement and Evaluation in Education that found that 12% of the school pupils of Ethiopian descent who participated in the survey said they were pushed or smacked by their teachers. This compared to 5% of the 150,000 school pupils who participated in the survey across the country. Commenting on the report, the chairman of the Knesset Aliyah Committee, M.K. Avraham Negosa, called the findings worrying and said the fact that the Education Ministry sought to prevent them from being published is cause for concern. Knesset member Omer Bar-Lev of the Zionist camp called the findings shocking, and said he plans to call an urgent meeting in the Knesset's Education Committee to discuss the issue. Authorities in Sweden have officially declared Swedish diplomat Raoul Wallenberg dead, 71 years after he disappeared from Hungary. The Swedish tax authority responsible for registering births and deaths in the country confirmed a local news report that the diplomat had been officially pronounced dead. Wallenberg is credited with assisting some 20,000 Hungarian Jews to escape the Nazis during the Holocaust and is believed to have died in captivity in Russia. Diaries kept by Ivan Serov, who ran the KGB from 1954 to 1958, stated Wallenberg was executed in a Soviet prison in 1947. Because of his actions, Wallenberg was named by Israel as one of the righteous among the nations. Back here at home, a ceremony took place marking the 99th anniversary of the key Battle of Beersheba, which broke the Ottoman lines and led to the conquest of Palestine by the British Allied forces in the First World War. A service at the Commonwealth War Graves Cemetery saw both Turkish and Australian officials pay respect to the fallen. Attending were military attachés as well as a contingent from the multinational forces in Sinai and Australians in Israel. A victorious charge of the Australian and New Zealand Light Horsemen has been reenacted over the years, and Beersheba is already planning for next year's 100th anniversary, which is expected to draw thousands of reenactors and descendants of the Anzac forces to the city. The Egyptian Football Association is tightening security ahead of next month's FIFA World Cup qualifier after it uncovered a plot by local fans to attack Israeli coach Avram Grant, who heads the Ghana football team. According to reports, fans in Egypt called on the authorities to prevent Grant from entering the country. Security officials said they had received information that football fans had started to compile information of where Grant planned to stay and travel in the country and to follow him around and harass him with intent of harming the football coach during his time in Egypt. Transport Minister Israel Katz is considering extending a high-speed train between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem to the capital's western wall. According to the Yediot Achronot newspaper, Katz discussed the idea with experts from the Transport and Finance Ministries, as well as with officials from Israel Railways Authority. The proposal calls for constructing railway tracks that would skirt the old city and run through a tunnel ending up at the Western Wall, making it easier for tourists and locals alike to reach the Western Wall directly from the center of the country. Starting today, planes departing and arriving at Ben Gurion International Airport will be forced to use one runway for the next 2 weeks, while maintenance work is carried out in the airport's 2 other runways. Meanwhile, in an effort to ease up the check-in process at the airport, passengers will soon be able to check into their flights using boarding passes on their mobile phones. This will allow outgoing travelers the option of completing their flight registration, as well as making purchases at duty-free shops inside the terminal. In addition, plans are underway to install speed gates to expedite the boarding process. And by the end of the day, some 300 new immigrants from France and Ukraine are set to land in Israel. The new Olim, many of whom escaped the fighting in eastern Ukraine, are arriving on 4 separate flights organized by the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. In local finance, the shekel was mixed today in foreign currency trading, and the stock exchange was down. Here are the numbers. The first heavy rain of the season is here. In 6 hours, some 19 millimeters of rain covered the Golan Heights and 10 in Sfat. The Gush Dan region saw 7 millimeters so far, and it's still coming down. The wet weather made its way to the capital this afternoon. While the Negev is still dry, but meteorologists are predicting that that won't last for long. The good news is the Kinneret is up a much-needed centimeter. The forecast is calling for continued light rain overnight from the north to the northern Negev, which is expected to end tomorrow morning. Temperatures will drop, becoming colder than normal for this season. Here are the highs and lows for the next 24 hours at home and abroad. And a reminder to all you drivers out there, winter driving regulations went into effect today. From now until the end of March, all motorists are required to turn on their car's headlights during the day while traveling on intercity roads. Buses, cabs, motorcyclists, and trucks must keep on their headlights also on inner-city roads. Failure to do so can result in fines of 100 shekels and 2 points off your license. And that's all for this newscast. Please join us again tomorrow, same time, same channel, when Elon Estlin Levy will be at this desk. I'm Laura Cornfield, wishing you a good evening and shalom from Jerusalem.